Welcome into the latest edition of our Cubs Recap podcast, a presentation of our Recap YouTube channel and available audio only everywhere you get your favorite podcasts. That's Gordon Wittenmyer. I'm David Kaplan, and it's all brought to you by our great partners at Sinus and SnoringMD.com. I've told the story before. My wife said, "Hun, love you dearly. I can't sleep in the same room with you anymore if you don't get this snoring checked." And we have a friend. His name is John. His daughter works for this company called Sinus and Snoring MD. And you can find him at sinus@snoringmd.com. So I went. Guess what? I don't snore anymore. That means my beautiful wife is next to me every night. You can go there. Sinus issues, snoring, they'll take care. Allergies, they're the best. So make sure you go to sinusandsnoringmd.com. All right, Gordon, I want to start with this. Cubs signed Phil Maton to a 2-year deal. I believe there's a 3rd-year option in there. He got, if he hits very makeable incentives, which means stays healthy and pitches reasonably well, $15 million for 2 years. He pitched for the Cardinals and then was sent to the Rangers, finished the 2025 campaign with a 2.79 ERA. He's not a closer, but he's a high leverage setup guy. I think he had 5 saves or thereabout in 2025. So that is the first salvo into the pitching market, multi-year for a reliever that we've seen Jed do in quite a while. I think it's a pretty good signing.
I like it. We talked about they haven't really spent, certainly on multi-year deals, probably since Kimbrel? And we know how that turned out. No, I like this deal. I mean, he was valuable enough. You can look at it 2 ways. He was valuable enough to get traded each of the last 2 years. He's pitched for 4 teams the last 2 years, but you were talking 63 appearances, 71 appearances, 68 appearances, 67. He's durable. He's got a career ERA under 4. He was 2.79 this year, and it's the kind of signing in that bullpen I'd like to see 1 or 2 more of.
Yeah, it's also the kind of signing a team trying to win does.
I agree with that. And now, and this goes back, we said, you were all over that Shota thing and the Cubs are wringing their hands, shocked that he took which is an idiotic position to take.
I don't know if the Cubs would agree that they were shocked, but that's what the reporting around it was.
Right, because nobody should be shocked that he took that deal. But I said it's the best thing that could happen to him because they maintain a higher level of starting pitching depth that has a chance to be really good. Now you go out and get the bullpen help you need. And if they add the starting pitcher that's reliable, unlike that, what they got at the trade deadline, and can stick it even right in the middle toward the front end, a number 2, 2.5 type starter.
Like a Dylan Cease.
Dylan Cease is better than that, but yeah, absolutely. If you get Dylan
I don't think Cease has proven yet he's a 1. He's a 2 that could pitch like a 1. And when he doesn't have command, he's a 2 that could pitch like a 3-4.
But he's a power pitcher that takes the ball out of play.
And he's durable.
And it's swing and miss stuff. And he's durable. And so that's exactly what you need. And it would be so complimentary in that rotation that they already have right now. And then you do moves like this Phil Maton thing. We talked about it before we started this podcast. The other thing that happened this week was that Sonny Gray trade.
Correct. Sonny Gray is now a member of the Boston Red Sox as the Cardinals start to pare back even more in terms of salary and to get 2 very good prospects, fringy top 100 guys, but good prospects as I read about him. One with more of an injury history than you might like, but he's got high upside. The Cardinals are sending $20 million of the $35 million Sonny Gray is owed to the Boston Red Sox, hence the better prospect haul.
And so now their best pitcher is not on that roster anymore. As good as they might have been last year, they're not going to be even that good going into next year. And they're sending a clear signal right here that this is a rebuild process for them. They're
new GM.
Right. And now that's been a year in coming. He's been in the organization. This was when he was going to take over, but I don't know that we were sure that he was going to take over and immediately strip it back another level. And that seems to be, Arenado's on the market. I wonder what our old friend Wilson Contreras is thinking he got himself into at this point.
Yeah, but he did get paid.
He did, and he did say he didn't want to get traded. So
wouldn't be shocking if he was.
It wouldn't be, but I think he's got a no trade, and he has made it clear, at least up to this point, that he wants to stay. But competitively speaking, the Cardinals are out of the picture now. I mean, and they're one of those teams that people are always saying, well, don't count out the Cardinals. You can count the Cardinals out now. You can certainly count
because
out
they're not going to go spend.
Right, and they made it clear that they're not trying to win in 26. And the Pirates, I mean, we hear all these rumors about, well, they're going to spend money. They're in on Schwarber. My ass, they're in on Schwarber. Give me a break. And they're talking out the other side of their mouth like they're, Mitch Keller's on the market. So what's the point if you do spend money, if you're going to just turn around and trade your second best pitcher? So they're out of it too. So right now it's three teams. The three
Cubs,
teams,
Reds, and Brewers.
The Reds have taken a big step back from where they were with all the free agent losses, and they don't have a payroll to backfill effectively. We'll see what they do.
So it's the Cubs and the Brewers.
So and so if the Cubs want to ratchet it up this much,
that's what I'm saying. If I'm Tom Ricketts, I go into Jed and go, here's the checkbook. Go take the division because it's ours.
It's right there to take. I mean, the Brewers have a lot of young talent, and they got Woodruff back because he took the qualifying offer. And if he's healthy, that'll be an impact guy to have in your rotation. But they just don't project as deep. And because they're so young, there's a tendency that they could be volatile too. So if they win 97 games this year, what if they win 10 fewer next year? That's still a good season, but now all of a sudden,
especially they may trade Freddie Peralta away.
Well, and depending on how they start, that could be a real thing come June, July. So, I mean, it's right there. If the Cubs were to get off to the kind of start they did in 2025, the rest of the division could roll over.
All right. I want to read you something, and I would love for all of you out there, our great listeners, please weigh in. Shoot us a message on social, right here on our YouTube page. You can post your comments. We'd love your thoughts. This is an ESPN and Athletic article. Both have written about this. So Hal Steinbrenner, the owner and managing partner of the New York Yankees, the son of the late George, says it's too early in the offseason to determine his team's payroll range for the 2026 season. You just had the GM meetings, and the winter meetings are like 3 weeks away. So I don't know how you don't know yet, but he'd prefer that the number drop from the $319 million he said New York spent on players in 2025. Would it be ideal if it went down with payroll? Of course. Does that mean it's going to happen? Of course not. We want to field a team we know could win a championship, or we believe could win a championship. He then said, Steinbrenner noted mental mistakes, particularly base running blunders, were a problem and led to first base coach Travis Chapman's dismissal, and then challenged the notion, he was questioned about it, that the Yankees made a profit in 2025, suggesting that they lost money after Forbes reported the franchise generated over $700 million in revenue this year. I don't want to get into it, but that's not a fair statement or an accurate statement of talking about turning a profit. Everybody wants to talk about revenues. They need to talk about our expenses, including the $100 million expense to the city of New York we pay every February 1st, including the COVID year. It all starts to add up in a hurry. And he talks about how much they spend on player development, scouting, performance science. It all starts to add up. He said, try to figure out the expense side. You might be surprised. And then someone who was listening to me on the radio on ESPN 1000 this morning, on Kap and J Hood, was listening. He said, I listen all the time on the app. He heard me say, if you're losing money with the New York Yankees, you're an idiot. And he texted me and said, brother, I love you. They absolutely lost money this year. He said, as did most teams. So when you hear that, and then Hal Steinbrenner said, I'm in for a salary cap as long as we get a reasonable floor that teams have to spend at that level. What do you say about it?
I'm tired of this shit. We act like we know something. And unless we're talking about the Atlanta Braves, whose books are open because they're part of a publicly traded company, we can't know what Hal Steinbrenner's talking about. We can't know what Tom Ricketts is talking about when he pleads biblical poverty. So I think that we need to look at the things we do know, and that is we know who the big market teams are. We know who puts more butts in the seats and who has the TV deals. And generally speaking, we know what the franchise values are. We know what the franchise values are because Forbes will estimate it. And then when that team sells, it's always for higher than Forbes says. For instance, the Tampa Bay Rays were the last team that sold. Forbes had them at roughly $1 billion in value. They sold for $1.7 billion. That tells you that this is a robust industry with robust revenues. And every time we hear them talking about, they put out their own releases talking about record attendance, record viewership for the World Series, record this and that. And we know that they've got record revenues. So when a team like the Yankees, who has more revenues than all but what, the Dodgers maybe, then and they're going to try to say, you know, they're not profitable. Okay, you're making choices then. And I love that he says we're not going to drop payroll.
No, he didn't say that.
Well, he said does it mean we're going to drop payroll? We want to put a competitive team on.
Would it be ideal if I went down with the payroll? Of course. Does that mean that's going to happen? Of course not.
Of course not.
We want to field a team we know could win a championship or we believe could win a championship. He also did go on to say $300 million payrolls are unsustainable, period.
They're not for the Yankees. They're not for the Dodgers. They're not for teams that have that level of revenue. So I don't want to hear it. He wouldn't be paying it if he couldn't be paying it. If it was truly hurting their business, they wouldn't do it. And it's clearly not hurting their business because their franchise value keeps going up. What we often don't hear, and again, I can only know so much because these are private companies that don't share their books with the media. But what we do know with a lot of these teams, they have ancillary businesses that they build off of their brand that aren't part of their baseball revenues. And those revenues that they bring in go into their pockets without any respect to revenue sharing or shared, the nationally shared revenue. So if he could easily be not counting that, the 700 million in revenues what Forbes estimated that might be just baseball revenues. And it's probably off, by a lot. It's because I'm sure it's done with a comparison to the Braves and projecting a few things, and then some of the known things like what a ticket costs and how many people attended the games and what concessions cost and merch and national TV share and things like that. So I'm not sitting here calling him a liar, but these things get spun to whoever's in the know and speaking spins it to sound the way they want it best to sound. What it means is that there are probably a handful, more than two, levels of truth to the numbers, depending on how you break them down. And I'm sure he's just answering a question. And it was an opportunity. It was put on a tee for him, but for the Yankees for the suggestion to be out there that the Yankees somehow aren't profitable or aren't that profitable, or that the payroll that they pay isn't sustainable and they're not even at the top anymore. If I didn't know better, I'd say it was a year to negotiate a collective bargaining agreement.
No question about it. The timing is so curious. I heard Justin Ishbia, who's going to be the owner of the White Sox at some point. He's now an investor with Jerry Reinsdorf, but right now he is not getting the keys to the franchise. And he said, someone said, how does it feel to know you're going to be the owner of the club? And he said, I'm not going to be the owner. I'm going to be the steward. He said, Jerry is
Again,
the steward
spin.
now. He said, I am going to be the steward. He said, and that means I have a responsibility to the fan base to try and win. I loved it. I thought it was a magnificent way to frame it, that I'm actually not the owner. I'm the steward of the franchise, and I'm in it to win. I liked it.
Oh, I do too, but that's classic. That's classic new owner talk. By the way, I just looked up this thing, and it's, just take it for what it's worth, right? It's that list that people have been talking about in recent months that came out of the percentage of revenue spent on payroll. Remember that? And then the Cubs were, well, where are the Cubs? Way down here, 26th at 36.4%. We all remember that one. The Yankees are number 11 on this list. Now, I'll just put out $728 million in estimated revenue. So that's roughly what Forbes was saying, right? And the payroll that they put, this luxury tax payroll, $362 million. That's the one they use. 49.7% of the revenues. Now, here's the thing. Correct me if I'm wrong on how some of these salary caps work. Doesn't how's the NBA salary cap work? 51-49 split?
I believe so. I can look that up while we're talking.
So this is
here.
just under 50% that they spend on payroll. That, to me, is if you had a salary cap, that's about what the cap would be. Right?
NBA players are 50-50.
50-50. This is
the league's
49.7.
basketball-related income, while other major sports leagues have similar revenue splits, such as the NFL 48-50, NHL at around 50-50
so
as
this
well.
is right in line with percentage spending. If you had a salary cap, you're going to tell me again that that's not sustainable? Come on.
Well, they would tell you, and Hal Steinbrenner did go on to say, there are many teams that go to spring training knowing they have zero chance of winning a championship.
I know.
And
the MLB calls it a parity issue.
Correct.
And the guys, and they went around to every team in baseball this year. The commissioner and a couple of his ex-player guys that he had allied with to try to help spread the message, talking about that stuff. And almost every clubhouse he went into, including the one I covered in Cincinnati, guys spoke up. Some of them weren't too happy about, like, you're not even, just say it, salary cap. And by the way, the numbers you're spouting off, we don't agree with them. The two sides have not even agreed on what accurate revenue is.
Well, you have also the WNBA players said they want what the NBA players get, 50-50 split. They get about 10% of the revenue. And the WNBA owners are saying, we lost $40 million last year. You guys want to be partners? You're going to cover the losses too.
Yeah. I think until that league is growing really, really fast. And there is a revenue issue in that league that's a little bit different as it's,
in 2024, MLB players received approximately 47% of total league revenues.
Yeah. So the difference is, right, the only substantive difference in what's getting spent on players is the distribution among the teams of what's getting spent on players. So, Hal Steinbrenner says, yes, if we could agree to a salary cap, obviously we would do that with the stipulation we agree to a floor. Well, no kidding. Right now you have a salary cap. It's called the luxury tax threshold. A lot of teams hover around it or hide behind it or stay just under it. Very few teams, as many as 4 or 5 or 6
Mets,
in a given year.
Phillies, Yankees, Dodgers, obviously.
There's only a couple that just don't even bother with it. Right. And they're like the Yankees and the Yankees, Mets, and Dodgers right now. They don't even bother.
Those are the three.
A lot of the other teams reset. And
Toronto went by it.
And they'll probably reset here at some point in the next couple of years.
And resetting means, folks out there, that if you go multiple years over, you pay a very stiff penalty, losing draft picks, and there can be other penalties.
Pushing your draft picks 10 spots back.
And right. And then there are financial penalties. So teams will, like the Dodgers a few years ago, they got back under.
About a decade ago, they did that.
I think less than that.
Uh,
So, all right. So let's talk about.
but there's a floor too because they have a minimum salary. So I mean, some of these things exist. The floor thing is a false flag or whatever they call that, a red herring or whatever. I don't know what the exact term would be for it, but it's kind of like no shit. I mean, if they were to get the seismic achievement that a hard salary cap would represent, of course there's
Dodgers did not pay the tax in 23.
Oh,
2018, 19, 20. They did pay in 21, 22. It says here in 2023, they were not luxury taxpayers and paid just under. Oh, they must have been. In 23, they were. They paid just under $20 million in luxury tax. 2024, they paid a record $103 million in luxury tax.
Okay. It's going to be, I don't know how they get under based on where they're at right now until Mookie's up or something like that because they're so far over.
Their 2025 luxury tax payroll. How about their luxury tax payroll is projected to exceed $375 million, which is nearly $70 million more than the next closest team,
and well over $100 million past the threshold.
Oh, no question. The highest threshold. Yeah, no question. Yeah. All right, so the Cubs get Phil Maton.
Yeah.
Now they're going to add, I would think, at least one high-level starter.
You would hope so.
I am hearing that they are engaged with Dylan Cease and that the interest is mutual, that he'd like to be here. But he's also not going to take a short-term deal.
You know, if you can't get him, you know who's out there?
Who?
He's the guy you traded him for. Jose Quintana.
Oh, stop. Not bringing that guy back here.
You might if Tom doesn't get pretty generous here.
So if you are able to get Dylan Cease, let's look at this from an optimistic Cub fan perspective. I had counted 8 guys that could start a game for you. I didn't say they'd be in your rotation, but you have coming back Justin Steele. Cade Horton will be there from day one. Jackson Wiggins is your number 1 pitching prospect, and they have said he'll be here this year. That's 3. You have Jamison Tyone, you have Matthew Boyd, you have Colin Ray, you have Javier Assad, you have Jordan Wicks. Now, if you go bring in a Dylan Cease and put him comfortably in the 2-3 role, and you have Cade Horton in the 1 role.
He's no worse than 2 in that group.
Okay, then he's a 2 in that group. So if you go Cade Horton, Dylan Cease, Justin Steele, Jamison Tyone, Matt Boyd, that's a pretty damn good 5-some.
Yeah, and you got real nice left-right balance there. And the thing about it is you got a team that's going to get better because so you're going to start without Justin Steele, and he comes back in May, probably, let's just say June 1st. And, you get Jackson Wiggins, who's not going to start with the team. He might.
Cade Horton came up May 10th, so he could be there then.
He could be there then, but you may not have the need. If you don't have the need, you let him continue to develop and ripen at AAA. And let's say he comes up in right after the All-Star break. Mm-hmm. And if he's successful at all, or if he at least adds a dimension that you can kind of drop in there here and there. Maybe you got to send him back to the minors once in a while. Like you can't expect him to just hit the ground running. But if he's somewhat of a contributor, and you've got Justin Steele starting and being able partly because he's starting, say 2 months in, he can go the whole rest of the season without worrying too much about an innings load. You could be a lot better in the second half.
You have every chance to win this division.
And I'm looking here at I'm just looking at the schedule. Open at home against the Nationals and the Angels. I mean, you could be 5-1 before you go on the road.
I take them one at a time, Gordon.
At Cleveland, at Tampa Bay, back home against the Pirates. You got the Mets, then you got the Phillies. That's going to be a tough homestay. Then at the Dodgers and Padres, that won't be easy. But you start for a couple of weeks with a chance to get off to a quick 2 or 3 week start, hold your own against some of the other better teams, And then what do we got here? D-backs, Reds, Rangers, Braves, White Sox, Brewers, Astros, Pirates, Cardinals in May. That's a winning month if you're
got a
healthy
good team,
and you got a good team. So it's not the schedule it was last year.
Last year was daunting, and they came out of it in first place.
And they came out of it in first place. So if you put together a team that's competitive and you can get off to that quick start right out of the gate, those first 2 easy weeks, easy on paper, and then build through May. And now Justin Steele joins a rotation.
Pretty good.
That's a recipe for pulling
And then
away.
you go, oh, wow, our number one pitching prospect's coming in.
But you got to put yourself in position. You can't sit on your hands this offseason like they did at the trade deadline.
I also think they sat on their hands too much going into last season. They made the Tucker move, and they went, okay,
they did
good.
with pitching.
That's what I mean,
Yeah,
with pitching.
Without a doubt.
So I still think you need another bat. I've heard rumors that they have interest in Schwarber. I would think he goes back to Philly, but would you bring Schwarber in here?
I don't care what team I am, I'd bring Schwarber in. I don't think Schwarber would come back.
I don't know the answer to that. My question is, if you did bring in, whether it was Schwarber, Teoscar Hernandez, some big bat that comes in here to be the DH, Seiya then's going to play right field. What are you doing with Owen Casey? Unless you're trading him to get Edward Cabrera, which is what I keep hearing.
Yeah, at that point, you're probably putting him on the block and seeing what you can get because he's not in your immediate plans. And right now, your only plan should be immediate. Otherwise, you're rotating him in. Again, if you have the resources to go big on pitching and hitting, go ahead. If you're going to hold yourself to a budget that doesn't allow both, make sure you get the pitching you need. And then roll your dice with Owen Casey.
Okay, give me something that you are thankful for. I'm not talking about wives or kids. I'm talking about in baseball. Is there something you go, I'm thankful for that?
I'll tell you what, we've talked about this before. I don't have this huge fan interest, although by the time the Mariners got closer than they ever had been, I grew up in Seattle.
It's in there.
All these childhood memories were flooding back and so
all you journalists just want a good story. That's bullshit.
It's not bullshit. I didn't raise that to argue about this again.
But I'm right because you are a diehard fan.
You're dead wrong.
No, I'm not saying you sit in the press box.
Look, man,
and you cheer. Oh, you leave that stuff to idiots like me.
When you have to do the job the way you have to do this job, it beats it the hell out of you. And so what I wind up with is rooting for people. And so the people that I know in the game, and I root for them. But so there was that, but I didn't even get to it. So I plugged in a little more this postseason than I have in years.
And the little boy Gordon was happy that his hometown team was doing well.
I was gonna take it a step further. I was gonna say that World Series was
amazing.
I was thankful for that World Series for what it did for the game I love, and just has tremendous baseball.
So we go out like once a quarter with our neighbors. So we've got Rodney and Dawn next to us, Lisa and David at the corner, Marissa and Robbie at the other corner, and Lauren and Jordan right next to us, me and Mindy. So there's 10 of us. And so they set it up for the Saturday night that Game 7 is going to be. And they had booked this a long time ago.
No.
Yeah. So I said to my wife, you're kidding, right? She said, hon, we committed to this. They've been planning this. I walked in, and the house we were going to 2 doors down, she's not a big sports fan, the wife, Lisa. Wonderful person. It's okay. The husband, he's a football guy. He likes the Packers. He's a lawyer. He does a regular job. He doesn't talk sports like you and I. I walk in, and I said, excuse me, where's your remote control? And she's like, for what? I said, it's Game 7 of the World Series tonight. Sorry, I have to see it. And the husband said, hon, relax. He does. And so we put it on within 20 minutes of that game starting, and I'm going nuts, and it was intense the whole way. all 10 people are watching, eating dinner on the couches, and they're watching the entire game. And at the end of it, she goes, "Oh, that was amazing. That was super cool."
And,
take that.
And they're all plugged into the game, not talking about what they're going to do next week. Or
"Oh, did you see the sale at the boutique?" No, they were all watching baseball.
That's impressive.
It was super cool.
Yeah, that's cool.
I'm thankful that you're here.
Hey, I love doing this with you about you.
And I'm thankful
These are fun.
for all of you out there that watch us and you give us your thoughts coming back. It's super cool. All right. Happy Thanksgiving. We'll keep you updated on what the Cubs are going to do. They made one move. I said this on the radio this morning. Why would you not just pick up the phone, call Dylan Cease? Dylan, Jed Hoyer. Yeah, what's up? What are you looking for? I'm looking for 6 for 170, whatever the number is. Done. I want you signed before Thanksgiving.
Well, they have the number. Whatever the number is, they have it.
And guess what? My partner, Guff, he has it. He's friends with Dylan. Guess what? Jed, if you need the number, we'll send you the cell. Just make the offer and get it done. Because as guys go off the board, the price keeps going up.
Is Guff trying to get him back to the White Sox?
No, the Cubbies. He knows the Sox are not going to spend at that level at this point in time. Okay? Gordon, have a great Thanksgiving.
All right, you too, man.
All right, that's a wrap for this edition of our Cubs Recap Podcast, a presentation of our Recap YouTube channel and available audio only everywhere you get your favorite podcast. For Gordon, for our great staff, I'm Kap. Happy Thanksgiving. We appreciate all of you. Take that.